Welcome, everybody. My name is Melina Abdullah. I'm co-founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, and this is not a drill. This is our weekly check-in with Black Lives Matter. It's our political education space. It's the space where we talk about what's going on in our world, how to advance freedom for Black people. Black Lives Matter is working to fulfill our sacred duty, to heed our sacred duty, to be the current iteration of the Black freedom struggle, the long Black freedom struggle. And so that's what we're attempting to do right here every Thursday on This Is Not a Drill, talk about those issues that are important to Black liberation. We want to remind folks that LA County Sheriff murdered Dijon Kizzee last Friday, and we are struggling for justice in his name. We're going to continue to lift up his name. We will not be suppressed and quieted by those interests who want us to back down. We will continue to rally and protest. We won't allow our folks to die silently. And so all those folks who are in the streets on Imperial Highway in front of the sheriff's station, we are grateful for your work. We're grateful for the work of his family. And on Saturday, we will be joining his family, the family of Dijon Kizzee, at 11 a.m. on 109th and Budlong, where LA County sheriffs murdered him. The family has asked us to turn out in full force on 109th and Budlong, Saturday at 11 a.m. Please bring cold water to share, bring snacks to share. There will be lunches for people. If you have a poem, bring it. You got a song, bring it. You got some drums, bring them. We want to remind you that Dijon Kizzee was simply riding his bicycle and was stopped for a quote unquote vehicle code violation. I don't know how you get a vehicle code violation on a bicycle, but stopped for a supposed vehicle code violation when he ran from the sheriffs, as most Black people would, because they kill us with impunity. He was shot dead, and there is video. We have chosen not to share the video based on the request of his aunt, who said it's too painful for his family. So we haven't chosen to share the video, but the video is widely available. And you watch sheriff's deputies not only murder him, but once he's on the ground, continue to shoot 20 bullets into his body. They stole the life of this brother, this son, this nephew, this cousin, this beloved member of the community, and we will not die silently, quietly. We will not die without protest. So again, Saturday, 11 a.m., 109th and Budlong, and we're asking everybody to do three things: to hashtag the name Dijon Kizzee, which we will drop in the comments, to donate what you can to his homegoing expenses. You can go to tinyurl.com/donate, the number 4 Dijon. Donate for Dijon. tinyurl.com, donate for Dijon. And then you can also text 55156 and the word Dijon, the name Dijon. That is a petition launched by Color of Change, which will go to our terrible ass DA and tell her to prosecute the deputies who killed Dijon Kizzee. There are several demands that we have: the release of the deputy names, that they be fired and prosecuted, that there be an independent investigation recognizing that the sheriff's department cannot be trusted to investigate themselves. And then lastly, we want the sheriffs out of our neighborhood. We want that money for interventionists, who are the ones who are successful in creating safe and peaceful communities. Police aren't even good at their actual jobs, right? A recent study was just released that police only solve 2% of the crimes that they investigate. 2% of the, if you failed 98% of the time you would be fired too. Let's fire the police and the sheriffs, kick them out of our neighborhoods, and hire the people who are successful, which are our intervention and prevention workers. We also want to make sure our neighborhoods have resources. So we want to remember there's a lot of work to be done. We're going to delve into a really, really important conversation. What keeps coming up as we're less than 60 days from the election is, does Black Lives Matter believe in voting? We absolutely believe in voting. We just happen to believe that you don't move from protest to politics. You don't only vote. We have to organize and vote at the same time. We have to vote out our terrible ass DA. Jackie Lacey absolutely must go. We have to vote in Measure J, spend money on the things that actually create safe community and stop spending on jails and sheriffs, right? And we need to vote in Proposition 17. So who we have on the show today is Taina Vargas-Edmond, who's absolutely our movement family. Many of you all are familiar with Initiate Justice, or familiar with much of the work of Richie Reseda, who is also down and has done this show several times, and part of our political education work. Taina is joining us on the show, who is the president of the Yes on 17 campaign. We have Miss Betty McKay, who's also going to share her story and is one of the leaders on Proposition 17, along with Brother John Windham. And both Sister Betty and Brother John are formerly incarcerated folks who are helping to lead the way. Prop 17 will restore voting rights to those who've completed their prison terms, right? And we're going to talk about what it means that we live in a country, that we live in a state that strips its people of its citizenship based on things that have already, debts that have already been paid. And we also know that sometimes those aren't debts that we even owed, right? But debts that have been paid nonetheless. And so I just want to open up by welcoming Sister Taina to the show, and asking if you could just give us a quick overview of what is Prop 17 and what will it mean for the people of California when we pass it on November 3rd.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melina, for having me. And, thank you everybody at BLMLA for all of your really dope work and, continuing to speak truth to power and not letting our elected officials forget that they literally have blood on their hands and are accountable for the harm that they've caused to our community. So thank you so much for doing the work in the streets. In terms of doing the work in the polling place, Proposition 17 will restore voting rights to approximately 50,000 people in California who have completed their prison terms. So what that means is right now, people do not have the right to vote if they are currently incarcerated in a state prison or in a federal prison, or if they are on state parole. And those are the only three categories of folks impacted by incarceration who cannot vote. So Proposition 17 will remove one of those categories and make people who are on state parole, who have completed their prison terms, automatically eligible to register to vote as soon as their prison sentence ends. And again, that would be approximately 50,000 people across the state. People who can vote in California who are impacted by incarceration are people in county jails, people who are on county probation, people who are on post-release community supervision, people who are released from federal prison and are put on federal probation automatically have their voting rights restored. The only people who are released from incarceration who do not have the right to vote are people who are released from state prison. So Proposition 17 is going to end that. And to offer a little bit more context in terms of how California is an outlier in the United States, and the United States is an outlier in the world, most democratic countries actually never remove your right to vote when you are incarcerated. Countries such as Canada, Japan, and most Scandinavian countries never take away your right to vote. And the United States is actually the only democracy in the world where it's possible for you to lose your voting rights forever. In states such as Florida, Kentucky, and Iowa, people do not automatically have their voting rights restored when they're off of supervision. It requires the governor to intervene in certain circumstances. And even in California, where your voting rights are restored once you are off of parole, there are some people who are on what's called life parole. So it's possible for you to be on parole for the rest of your life and lose your right to vote forever. And this needs to end in California. 19 other states currently automatically restore your right to vote as soon as you are released from prison. So California would become the 20th state. We're behind states like Nevada and Colorado, and even Florida has opened it up so that most folks who are released from prison have their voting rights restored. And then 2 states, Maine and Vermont, actually never take away your right to vote, even while you're incarcerated. However, this all comes down to an issue of racial justice. I don't think it's any coincidence that Maine and Vermont are the 2 states where your voting rights are never taken away. And by population, they're also the first and second whitest states in the country. California is one of the most diverse states in the country. And of course, it's people of color and Black people in particular who are disproportionately impacted by voter disenfranchisement. Black folks make up about 6.5% of the total California population, but make up 28% of the population of folks who are currently on parole, like my friends Betty and John here, who are both on life or parole and have, and it's possible that they'll lose their voting rights forever. So I'll go ahead and pause there. But yeah, Proposition 17 is an opportunity for us to make history in California and remove one of the, one of the vestiges still left over from slavery.
Absolutely. And we need to think about also prisons by and large and policing by and large as vestiges of slavery, right? So, of course, when you talk about the stripping of citizenship, the stripping of voting rights, that's going to be embedded into these systems. Miss Betty, many folks, when they see you, you look like you should have the right to vote. Right? You look like, when we talk about Black women voters, your picture should be next to that phrase, right? You look like a Black woman voter. What happened? Why do you not have voting rights?
Melina, I am so glad you asked. And it's really funny because everywhere I go, I do motivational speaking. I facilitate healing circles. I do all kinds of things in my community. And everywhere I go, the first thing they say is, I would have never guessed that I was formerly incarcerated. What are we supposed to look like? We look like everyone else in the community. We look like everyone else in the world. The only difference is you have reduced me to 2/3 of a person. I'm free, I'm paying taxes, but I can't vote and say where the money goes. What I don't understand is I was never stripped of my citizenship. I've never seen that anywhere on any paper. I did 27 years in prison, and never once have I heard anyone say that I was no longer a U.S. citizen. So if that is true, why can't I vote? And as a former lifer, considered a former lifer on lifer parole, I didn't just get here because I had a date and I walked out. I got here because I went before you 9 times. You playing with my life with this punitive control. But on the 9th time, you couldn't find any other reason not to let me go because I had become the very best version of myself. Yet, here I am. I cannot vote. Why can I not vote? I have paid my price. I have done my time, and I'm here. I am still a US citizen, yet I am not able to vote, which doesn't make sense on any level other than the continuance of the systematic punitive control that they want to hold over not only formerly incarcerated people, but of the communities that we represent. And this is why it is a must that we win, because it is the system that we have to abolish.
Absolutely. And can I just ask you to pick up on one more thing before we go over to John and get his story? Why is it important to you that you have the right to vote?
Melina, before I was incarcerated, I watched my parents load up cars from the neighborhood. I mean, voting day was a big thing for them. You know, they were part of Martin Luther King March, but I didn't see so much the change that it made. So it really wasn't that important to me as a young person. So I'd vote when I feel like it, and if I didn't feel like it, I didn't do it. But being incarcerated, I saw firsthand the power that I handed over not voting. And so inside, I became obsessed with voting because that is our power. And I want my power. My power is my vote. And collectively, that's how Black people gonna make a difference if we all own our power, which is our vote, and change things one vote at a time. And I need mines.
Right. And I always say if voting wasn't important, they wouldn't keep trying to keep us from it, right?
Melina, if voting wasn't important, why is it the only time they come to the hood is during election time? You see them at every church, every org, it's a parade down the middle of the hood with kissing babies and everything, but it's only one time, and that's during election time. So if it wasn't important, why would you show up? We gotta stay woke on them, and that's why now that I am woke, it is everything to me to be woke and to wake up my people and to get the vote so that I can wake them up to what we really know is true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Miss Betty. Brother John, can we go to you and I want to hear your story and how you got involved in this work, but also your story. How did you lose your rights?
Well, I was pretty much from the cradle to pipeline, not school. I started getting locked up early at 14 years of age, which is an age that they started locking up a lot of minorities, right? So they started me on the path of not having my right to vote. Then I went to prison at 19 years of age and did 30 years. And I was released 18 months ago. And you know, when I was in the inside, that was my thing. I never missed the election. I never missed a vote. But when I was on the street in the free world, I was caught up in my community as far as the block and what was happening on the block and trying to survive. So I didn't see anything outside of that. But sitting inside and watching the elections, I understood why people voted. I understood that I had a voice that I wasn't using, and I refused to get out, right? And come back to the free world as a free citizen and not do my part and vote. My people lived and died for the right to vote. And there's people still fighting right now about that right. And it's 50,000 of us that's paroled that don't have the right to vote. Why do you not want to hear what I have to say? Why my voice is not important? Why is that? Am I going to vote against you? I mean, the powers that be, right? So it's very important to get our rights to vote back. I mean, I've been talking to people in my community about voting. They have no idea. Before I came home, they had no idea, nothing about voting or anything, don't know that they can vote. And so me getting my power back and give power back to my community because they're watching, right? And I can't go push on them to vote when I can't even vote. I want to be able to tell them, do as I do. And right now I can't say that. I committed a crime when I was a teenager, and I'm sorry. And I paid my price for that. But today, I'm a community leader, a community activist. I'm a facilitator. I'm a mentor. I'm a father. I'm a taxpayer. I'm paying my taxes. I'm taking my money, right? Because I got 4 jobs. They taking money out of my check every week, right? And you're doing what you want with it. Taxation without representation. So you can take my money and do what you want with it, and I have no say. I should have a right to say what you do with my money and who you put in the office to pay with my money. And for that reason, you should vote yes on Prop 17 to give this 50,000 our right to vote back. Give us our voice. We vote with you, the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you're watching on Facebook and you have questions or comments, please drop them in the chat and we'll make sure that we ask your questions of our panelists tonight. If you have questions about Prop 17 or about the rights of formerly incarcerated folks, or how you can get involved in this push to pass Prop 17, please leave a comment and we'll make sure that we ask it during our conversation. Taina, help me to understand, help us to understand. I don't understand why it's such a threat. Why are they going through such lengths to keep the vote away from people who have already served their time? What is the issue? What is the issue with formerly incarcerated people voting? And I know that we're talking specifically about Prop 17, but even this misinformation and disinformation, when I used to do a lot of voter registration work, just volunteer voter registration work, I would almost always, every time I was doing it, right, get somebody saying here in California, oh, I can't vote because I'm on probation, right? Or because I'm formerly incarcerated. Folks didn't understand that in California, if you've served out your parole term, your probation, even if you're on probation, you should still be able to vote unless it's some sort of condition, right? So why is there this fear of formerly incarcerated people voting? What is that about?
So I'll just say it's nothing real, right? Just like it's the same arguments for why we need the police and for why we need jails. They're just selling fear. We will hear the opposition say things like, it's part of their punishment. And do we want, people who have committed X, Y, and Z to have a say in the electorate? And what I say is absolutely 100% yes. Because ask yourself, who can possibly understand better what our communities need to be safe than people who have got caught up in this system? Who better to ask, what community interventions do we need? What social welfare systems need to be in place to keep communities safe than people who have fallen through the cracks and who have ended up in our injustice system? Initiate Justice did a survey last year, and we published the results in a report called Democracy Needs Everyone. And we asked, if you could vote, would you vote? And we surveyed over 1,000 people in prison and people who have completed their prison term and said, would you even vote? 98% of respondents said that yes, they would vote. And I don't think that there's any other demographic that you could survey that would, where 98% of them would say, absolutely, yes, I want to vote. And it comes back to the point that Miss Betty was saying, when you're impacted by incarceration, policy literally impacts every aspect of your life. It determines how long you have to spend incarcerated. It determines what food you eat, how often you can call your family, the clothes that you wear, when you're let in and out of your cell. Literally everything in your life is dictated by policy. So you walk out of that situation with a very acute sense of what is wrong in our system and what we need to make it better. So you know, folks will sell fear, sell the concept of punishment, and say, you know, you did the crime, you do the time, you know, and this is what you deserve. To be clear, I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe anybody should be in prison. And I also don't believe that anybody who is currently incarcerated should have their voting rights taken away. But specifically, when we're talking about the folks who would be impacted by Proposition 17, realistically, we're also talking about not just justice, but public safety. Every study done on the subject shows that formerly incarcerated people feel more connected to the community when they have their voting rights restored. In places where voting rights are automatically restored, recidivism rates are significantly lower. Even in Maine and Vermont, the rates overall of violent crime are significantly lower because people never lose. One of the reasons is because people never lose their right to vote. So if people are concerned about justice and if people are concerned about safety, you would think that you would want people who are coming out of prison to feel like they are connected to the community. There's all of these expectations and all of these conditions that are laid out in parole. You know, there's a certain place that you need to live, you need to work, sometimes you need to participate in classes or groups. Sometimes they want you to go to school or do whatever it is to fulfill the conditions of your parole. So if they're holding you to such a high expectation as a community member, why are we treating folks like they don't have the right to have their voice heard at the polls? It doesn't make any logical sense. It doesn't serve any purposes for public safety. And again, it's just a vestige of racism and injustice that we have in this country. So, I understand like people may fall in different areas when it comes to, how important voting is. But the fact of the matter is that literally everything in our lives is determined by the people who we put in office and the policies that we vote on. People are literally voting for their lives. It is a radical and abolitionist proposal to restore voting rights to people impacted by incarceration.
So who's against this, right? So we're supposedly living in a democracy. We're supposedly living in a space where we want everybody's voice to be heard, right? Who is against voting rights for people? And again, let's be very clear, people who have already served out their terms, right? I don't even believe that they should be taken away at all, right? Maine and Vermont got this one right. Vermont got Ben and Jerry's and, rights for incarcerated people, right? Those two things, right? Who's against restoring voting rights for people who have already served out their terms? I don't understand.
So I will say that formally there is not a registered no on Prop 17 campaign, which is great. Maybe that means that folks are finally starting to catch up with the rest of the country and the rest of the world. At least nobody's putting a lot of time and money and energy into this. However, there are a few groups who, are showing up at some endorsement meetings that we're having and things like that to oppose us. There's one group called the Election Integrity Project, which essentially is a conservative group that opposes anything that will have more people of color having access to voting. And then there's a small quote unquote victims' rights group that has also been vocal in some situations, and a few Republican legislators. And again, their argument is, that people should continue to be punished. And they are trying to sell fear and say, oh, these scary people are going to vote. Well, when we did our Democracy Needs Everyone survey, we asked people not only would they vote, but what would they vote on? The top three things were healthcare, education, and public safety. 92% of respondents said that they wanted to enact policies that make their communities more safe. 91% also said that they would want to elect DAs that focus on healing for victims. And I think that that's something that we wouldn't necessarily expect based on the myths that we're, consistently fed about people impacted by incarceration. But the truth is, people impacted are folks like Ms. Betty and John, and you're probably your neighbors, whether or not you know it. And folks are here in the community trying to do the best that they can and are not these terrifying monsters that we're told that we need to be afraid of. They are, citizens just like the rest of us, who shouldn't have their voting rights taken away.
So I'd love to hear from Miss Betty and John. You won't be able to vote in this election, but if you could, what is important to you? Because I think that what we can also do now, so, there are folks who have no voting rights, right? But then there's also folks who have voting rights who don't vote, right? So if we were to vote for you, Miss Betty, if I were to stand in your stead, what would you want me to vote for?
The biggest thing that you could go and vote for me would be yes on Prop 17, no on 20, and heck no on 25. Okay. But I'm going to tell you, because I can't vote this year, but we're going to see to it that Miss Betty get to vote next year. That's what we're going to do. Tonight, we're going to do that. We're going in. I need to vote. Everybody help Miss Betty vote. And the way that you can do that is we're going to have 5 Call Friday. I made it up. So on Friday, I need everyone to call 5 people and tell them yes on Prop 17. Because if we can get that vote, we can get our power. If we can get our power, we can change everything. Everything. Because all of this comes from a systematic, it's nothing but, this system of mass incarceration is nothing but the new slavery. It's still the same system. They don't even change the system. They just change the name of the system. It was slavery. Then it was Jim Crow. Now it's mass incarceration. Same tactics, punitive control. And I am not a third, 2/3 of a person. I am a whole person who needs to be whole. And we're going to make Miss Betty whole this election, because I'm going to get the voting right along with my freedom in paying taxes. I am still a U.S. citizen, and I need to vote. We need our power back in our communities. They have been hoodwinking us for years, having us believe that there is no power in that vote. That is part of the control that they use over our communities. And 2020 is the year we say no more. No more.
So I hear you, Miss Betty. Yes on 17. We all know what that is.
Okay.
17 is what will restore voting rights to those who have already served out their prison terms. 50,000 folks in California who have their voting rights stripped from them. You also said no on 20 and no on 25. What are those things?
I'm going to give it to Taina. She probably can do it very much quicker than I can, and much more. She's better at this one than I am. So Taina, you give them a quick answer to it, because I'll be all night. Miss Melina, you see I like to preach, okay? I get very excited.
We like hearing you preach. The viewers are asking for
I get
you. They
very
said, what does
excited
Miss
about
want
this.
to
I'm
vote on?
so passionate and serious about these things, but I'm going to be quiet because she needs to tell you very quickly what it is. I know we're running out of time.
So Proposition 20, also known as the prison spending scam, would roll back a lot of reforms that we have passed over the last few years. So the short version of it is it would roll back parts of Proposition 47 and Proposition 57. It would increase penalties for certain offenses that are currently considered misdemeanors. But the most important thing is that it would make it almost impossible for nearly every person in prison to earn any time off of their sentence. So, right now, most folks in prison have the opportunity to earn time off for completing educational and rehabilitative programs, and Proposition 20 will end that. And it would be absolutely devastating if Proposition 20 passed. So Initiate Justice is a firm no on Proposition 20. Proposition 25 is a referendum of SB 10, which was a bill that ended cash bail. And just full disclosure, Initiate Justice is neutral on Proposition 25, but a a yes vote on Proposition 25 is to end cash bail, and a no vote on Proposition 25 is to reject that. But the reason that many advocates are opposed to Proposition 25 is because in place of cash bail, it will create an algorithm system that will determine who can be released pre-trial and who needs to stay inside. And all of these algorithms are racist, and there have been a lot of studies to show that it's possible that more Black and brown people will be locked up if we do pass Proposition 25. So although of course we support the ending of cash bail, we also don't want to create a new problem and a new system that we'll have to dismantle later on down the road. So because it's complicated, Initiate Justice as an organization is neutral, but I'll say for myself as an individual, I'm also voting no.
So, Ms. Melina, that's my interest. Okay, those are my interests because number one, without just a little bit of those milestones, if you want to call them, or credits for things that you do, I would have done like 6 extra months. I wasn't even allowed. I had 42 weeks of milestones. That means that I had 42 weeks of things that they consider creditable toward time off, which I wasn't able to use simply because I was a lifer. 42 weeks I was not able to use. Okay, so that means that with this pass, people will be able, that's college, that's programs, that's therapy sessions, that's all kinds of life skill classes, everything that you can take to become a better version of yourself. It needs to be credited toward their time. They need to receive something for that. And
Basically,
it's important.
yeah, basically what they're doing is taking away the incentive for people inside the program, because we program inside, of course, to change, but the immediate gratification, all right, the immediate reward is getting time off and going home early. So whether you want to go to the programs or groups or school or anything or not, you go because you want to get good time, and that's what that does. It keeps in place the incentives to program, to change, to heal, to grow, to educate yourself, to become better. But if you take away that incentive by voting no, I mean yes on Prop 25, then the whole framework of prison will change as far as people caring or trying to change and trying to grow. And right now it's about rehabilitation. So them programs shouldn't be taken, and attendance shouldn't be taken.
Right.
You should be motivated to change and to grow and to get home and get back into society with your voting rights.
So John, are those the ones that you wish you could vote for in November as well? Yes on 17,
yes,
no
yes,
on 20, no on 25.
yes, and yes on 16. I
yes
mean,
on 16.
16 is equal pay for women in the workplace, and I feel until they stop messing over my sisters, us brothers really ain't got nothing coming. I'm just saying. So I feel we should vote yes on Prop 16. And when the Queen's place is restored, then the King's place is restored, because women come before the man, because you create us, right? So I believe yes on 16 for sure, and that brings yes on 17 and brings everything else in place. But us sisters that's left out here because we all locked up for mass incarceration, yeah, then they got 2 or 3 jobs holding it down for the Black family. They need their pay. They need their pay. So
we
for that,
almost never hear this perspective. This is such an important perspective, Brother John. We hear women talking about our fates being bound up together, that, you know, what happens to our brothers also happens to us. But I love to hear you talking about what happens to us as women impacts you as men.
Oh, for
right?
sure. For sure. If it wasn't for you, it'd be no me. So if we don't pay homage and respect you, we ain't gonna respect nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I see Miss Betty snapping. Taina and I are both overwhelmed. It's really beautiful, because I think that, and I know this is not what we're here to talk about, but I think that one of the most beautiful things that we have as Black people is understanding that all of our fates are bound up together.
Mm-hmm.
And it does actually go back to Prop 17, because folks who have their voting rights, our folks who have our voting rights, still need to understand that until you have your voting rights, none of us are free, right? Our fates are all bound up together. And again, I think that's one of the most beautiful things around Black people, about Black people, is we know that our fates are intertwined.
There's the interconnectedness.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
For sure. So with that said, what can folks do to help pass Prop 17?
And get out and vote. Talk about it. Talk about it. You know, I mean, you know, we wait. I notice a lot of places I go and I leave because we wasting conversations on stuff that don't matter. It's time to start talking about stuff that matters. And the more we talk about it, we'll be about it. You know, we talking about other stuff, so we're about other stuff that don't matter. It's time we talk about stuff that matter. Start bringing this conversation up. And the reason why it impacted me so much is because I remember sitting down like with my son and my wife, and they was talking about voting. And I was like, yeah, wait. I can't vote. I can't vote. So it's like I felt like less than. And no human being should feel less than. You talking about Black Lives Matter. Well, it's only us Black Lives Matter just feeling like, you know, we're less than. And when you start feeling like that, we'll say your lives matter too, right? But right now, I mean, you know, it's important to have that, man, because like I said, once we get that stuff right, at least you trying to it's a drop in a bucket, but it's a start to say we understand. It's a start to say we see you as a human being. We see you as our equal. And I'm not gonna stop. You can pass 17, that's cool, but you gotta pass 16 too. You gotta pass all those things that are injustices to our people, to all color. But with that, I shut up because I'm talking too much.
No, we love to hear it. We love to hear it. Taina, how do people get involved in the campaign? So we know that we have to individually, as individuals, commit to voting on Prop 17. We know that we can talk with our friends and families about the importance of voting on yes on 17. What can we do beyond our immediate circles to get Prop 17 passed?
Thank you. Yeah, so step number 1, visit our website, yeson17.vote. Again, that's yeson17.vote. And there are plenty of ways that you can get involved. You can sign up for our email list just to get our updates on, you know, all of the events and things that we have going on. You can donate, which is really important. And I should have mentioned that before, that this is a grassroots funded and led campaign. So we are led by people who are directly impacted by incarceration, and we are funded mostly by the people. So if y'all can donate to our campaign, that'll be a really, really huge help. So again, the website is yeson17.vote. And you can also sign up to volunteer. And there's a few different volunteer opportunities that we have. Of course, things are a little bit different now with COVID, but you can sign up to be a campaign ambassador. And our dope outreach committee chair, Daisy Chavez, who I think I saw her in the chat earlier, you would be working closely with her so that you can lead your own campaigns to support Proposition 17, or you can become a fundraising captain and you can do your own grassroots fundraising campaigns to raise money to support Proposition 17. So again, the opportunities to donate, to sign up for our email list, and to sign up for all volunteer opportunities are on our website, yeson17.vote. And we also have an endorsement form on the website. So if you are a member of an organization and you would like your organization to endorse Prop 17, you can just fill out the form on our website. It's very easy.
And I think Black Lives Matter is already an official endorser of Prop 17. We do think it's hugely important. One of the things that we continue to talk about is we don't move from protest to politics. We need protest and politics, but we need both, right? We need to use every tool in our toolbox. We have to vote on November 3rd. It would be, to not vote on November 3rd would be one of the most ridiculous things that we've ever done, right? We've been in front of Jackie Lacey's office saying Jackie Lacey must go for 3 years now. And now we have an opportunity to vote her out. We have to go to the ballot box and vote her out. I'm wondering if you all have thoughts on the mail-in ballot. I've always been a strong proponent of voting in person. I didn't trust the mail, but now I'm watching this fool in the Oval Office load up mailboxes and defund the U.S. Postal Service, and now I'm going, oh, well, maybe we do need mail-in ballots. I don't know what might happen on November 3rd. What are your thoughts on, we're hearing lots of folks say early voting is really, really important. Vote it as early as October if you can. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. So I've been a permanent vote by mail ballot for the last maybe like 10 years or so. Voting by mail for me is a little bit more convenient because you can vote early. You have the flexibility of voting in your home and, you know, doing some research. And then you can also track the status of your ballot. So whatever county you're in, if you're in LA County or wherever, you can just visit your county clerk's website and, you know, type in your name and your information, and you can find out what's happening with your ballot at every step of the way. I've been in situations where my vote by mail ballot didn't come on time, so I just contacted the county clerk's office and made sure that I got my ballot. As soon as I turn it in, you can track it. They'll say that when they receive it, they'll say once they've, you know, actually counted your vote. It's different steps in the process. So for sure, I encourage people to vote early. Ballots are dropping October 5th, so you should have your ballot a few days after October 5th. If you don't have your ballot in the mail, you know, contact your county clerk's office and find out what's going on. And even before that, check your voter registration status and make sure that you are an active voter. And again, you can do that by visiting your county clerk's website or the California Secretary of State's website to find out. At this point, you should have already received something in the mail that's just confirming that this is your voter address. So if you've not received anything in the mail yet, you might not be registered under the correct address or correctly registered. So check that. Vote early, and then just continue to check on the status of your ballot. Call the county clerk's office if you need to, because this is going to be a quite hectic time. As we know, you know, Trump is doing everything that he can to interfere in this election, so we have to be extra vigilant. And there are plenty of organizations who can provide voter information and support, such as, you know, League of Women Voters, ACLU. So please, you know, also use your local organization as a resource for support as well.
So we need you to, if you're not sure if you're registered to vote, you can go to sos.ca.gov, sos.ca.gov. There's a huge button at the top of the page that says register to vote. Click that button, and I think you have to be registered to vote by October 19th to vote on November 3rd. So if you've moved, if you've changed political parties, if you're not sure, it's not going to register. You're not going to go to jail for registering to vote if you're already registered. That's, now you can go to jail for voting more than once. So don't listen to that fool in the Oval Office that says vote as much as you can. Let him do it. Maybe that'll be the thing they finally get him on, right? But we need everybody to be registered to vote. Even if you're not sure if you want to vote, register to vote so you have the option, right? sos.ca.gov is what gives you, it'll bring you to the voter registration link. You can register to vote online and then request or get a vote by mail ballot. And those again are coming out October 5th. Is it October 5th? And election day is November 3rd. What else do we need to be aware of as we move towards the end of this program? What else can we do to advance the rights of incarcerated folks, formerly incarcerated folks? I think it's beautiful what you lifted up, Miss Betty, that I didn't underline, but I was underlining in my head when I said Well, when people look at you, you look like a Black woman voter, the Black women voters that everybody's talking about. And you said, well, what does a formerly incarcerated person look like, right? What am I supposed to look like, right? I think what you're underscoring is that we, again, are all in this together, that anybody can be a formerly incarcerated person, right? Don't believe all the stereotypes that you're fed. Our people are our people. One of the best books that I'm currently reading is called, I won't say the N word, but In Theory by Jody Armour, which talks about how we've been conditioned to believe that if you're not formally incarcerated, that you're somehow special, right? If you are, you know, you have a degree, you're somehow special. We are all ends, and we all have to recognize that this system, even though you're a citizen, the system doesn't see you or us as full citizens of this country. The system does not see us as people worthy of rights. And so we have to struggle for our rights. And so it's important that every time there's a struggle that empowers even one of us, that we're all behind it pushing for those rights. So what else can we do? We know there's a yes on 17. What other things do we need to commit ourselves to?
I mean, everybody got Twitter and Facebook, and you own it every day. So talk about it on there. That's the quickest, surest way to get people to talk about something and to get your message out. That's
Use
what I
your
do.
social media for a purpose. What did you say? Stop talking about stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah, come on now. What we talking about? Like
that's your words, Brother John. That's what
I'm saying. Why we gonna be talking about something that don't matter? I'm trying to, you know, I've been gone for 30 years. I ain't got no time to be wasting talking about nothing that don't matter, right? I got this second half, and I'm gonna enjoy this, so I got to make it better for me and my people. And that's what we should be talking about. Whatever it is to make it better.
That's
you know, you should vote. I don't care.
You know, I mean, John? How many kids do you have?
Oh, I got 3 kids.
3 kids. So you make it better for them.
Oh, for not only for them, my grandson, them kids is old. They cool, they good, but it's about our grandkids, right? Because those are the ones that I don't want them to see none of this that we faced, right? That's the goal, to make sure our grandkids what they hear about right now is all part of history. We all can be a part of history right now in this election by vote. We can make history right now.
That's right.
And so when our little kings and queens grow up, they can surpass us without any of that, without the oppression, without the disenfranchisement, without all that.
Are you not going to talk about your campaign strategy when you go live singing in the car, singing about?
Oh yeah, you are. Don't make me do it now. Don't make me do it now. Black Lives Matter over here. Don't make me, because I sang the Black Lives Matter. What?
Come on now, do it. We want to hear you do it. Go ahead.
So we just, you know, I just think about just our kids. Not even so much me. I done been through so much. It's like whatever. But what about that Black child? What do we want to see for him? You know what I mean? And Whitney Houston said it the best. You know what I mean? I believe the children are our future, right? And they are our future, and that's what we're talking about here today. For you to give me my right to vote, is for you to give my grandson and the likes on down generations further down the line the right to vote, right? And so I say, I believe the children are future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my need. A lonely place to be. So I've been learning to depend on me. That's why I vote. Because see, look here, I vote because I depend on me. Now I'm depending on y'all until I get the vote. So vote, yes, on Prop 17 for me and for the kids, please.
All right, John. If that didn't motivate you, I don't know what will. Miss Betty, you got any last words for us before we sign off?
I just want to remind everyone that my crime is what I did, not who I am.
Right.
And who I am is an awesome, phenomenal woman who is invested in change for my family, my community, and my people. And so, unclip my wings. Unclip my wings so I can fly.
I believe I can fly.
All right, no R. Kelly. We don't co-sign R. Kelly.
For my people, and allow me to just be 100%. And don't forget, there's 50,000 more just like me.
That's right.
So vote 5 on Friday. 5 on Friday. 5 on Friday. I need everybody. 5 on Friday. Y'all help Miss Betty to vote and the 50,000 just like me. We got this. We're going to win this. And I'm depending on everyone to do their due diligence. If we don't take care of ourselves, nobody will. So let's get this done. Let's get it in. Let's go.
I say, Taina, last words.
I don't know what to say after Betty and John, honestly. Like, what does one even say after that? But just thank you so much for the time and the opportunity to speak on Proposition 17. You know, if y'all were moved by Miss Betty and John, know that there's like 50,000 other folks just like them who are dependent on all of you. And like John said, you know, it's not just about the here and now, it's about the future and what kind of legacy do we want in the state of California. Today, we are restoring voting rights for people who have completed their prison term. Next time, we're going to come back and it's going to be for everybody, and we're going to end felony disenfranchisement in this state once and for all.
Indeed, indeed. The only point I disagree with you on is I don't think there's anybody like Miss Betty and John, right? So 50,000 other folks need their voting rights restored. You all are definitely some of the most beautiful, brilliant, committed folks. We're so thankful for you. And we are committed to voting yes on 17. I am personally committed to voting yes on 17 and getting all my friends to understand how important it is to vote yes on 17. We also want to remind folks that just like we're going to the ballot to vote yes on 17, we also have to stay in these streets. On Saturday, we're going to be there for the family of Dejan Kizee at 11 a.m. on 109th and Budlong. On Sunday, we're inviting everybody out to the Black Lives Matter monthly meeting at Youth Justice Coalition 7625 South Central Avenue, 7625 South Central Avenue. Sunday at 7 p.m., we'll have delicious hot meals from Vegan Outreach, and we'll have produce bags, fresh produce bags for you to take home with you. Those produce bags last like 2 weeks. It's like 2 weeks full of fresh vegetables and produce for us to cook for our families. So please join us and help build what is now being called the largest movement in global history. That's just regular folks, made up of regular folks who are committed to justice. The Black Lives Matter General Meeting is Sunday, 7 p.m., 7625 South Central Avenue. Thank you so much, Taina, Miss Betty, Brother John, Initiate Justice, for joining us tonight. We'll see you next Thursday, inshallah, on This Is Not a Drill.
Thank you, Queen.
So much, Miss Melina.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.